Hello and welcome to the Everyday Depth podcast. My name is Bear Kern and I'm your host. In this episode, I have a couch conversation with Charlotte Gustovic from the Cleveland area. She's an actor, musician, and a model, and also happens to be my girlfriend's sister. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. She died till like 8 hours after. Like it was like, nah, she'll be back, kind of thing.
I resent myself for never, giving them that latitude, because all of a sudden I resonate with the things that they did,
Yeah. It was still just like really bad. I didn't really have I had one last resort. Like at some point you'll always end up hurting someone else, hurting yourself, or whatever it may be. And my one that I've been on is everything that people do can be simplified to either an act of love or a call for love. That's been my shit. That's been my shit.
Oh, I like that.
Fuck with it?
Yeah, I do.
Some people have said that it makes no sense whatsoever.
No, it makes sense.
And then I'll try to explain it, and I'm like, do I make sense?
Well, all you have to do is they try and give you an example of something that they don't think is either, and then you just tell them it's that one or that one.
Ice their shit.
Like, we'll just let them know. Like, yeah, actually, that's an act of love if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
Because everything is love. That's especially vague, but it's just funny that you bring your saying up, because I was just at work. My part-time right now is I'm working with the holistic practice, the homeopathic clinic that I'm working with, and I get to attend these group sessions for free where we kind of share and people heal together. One might compare it to group therapy, but it's not for people who are necessarily broken. It's for people who want community more so, and kind of share similar, I don't know, because it's for everybody. It's not even for people. You can easily disagree on stuff, but we were on the group yesterday. I'm so lucky to get to attend these for free because I work there. But we were my boss, Dr. Erin, who runs them, and she owns the clinic, and she is a genius, and she's taught me a lot about holistic health. She was teaching the didactic part of these circles, as we call them, she just teaches about the holistic concepts that she knows everything about. And we were talking about the intelligence of water, because water makes up everything. There's water everywhere. And she could do it so much better than me, but she tied love in, and everything came full circle. I don't know.
As soon as you started talking about the water shit, for some reason it started making me think of octopuses, how they could just fit into anything.
Is that real? Yeah.
I don't know if it correlates, but
yeah, I mean, octopuses, octopi.
Octopuses.
I was gonna say that sounded weird, and there's got to be a reason it sounded weird to me.
Is octopuses the proper term?
Octopi.
Octopi. Octopods.
Pods. Heck. He's laughing at our camaraderie. Bro, yeah. I sound like a crazy hippie when I say it, but when she says it, because she has the research behind it and all of the cool things. Yeah.
There's I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's kind of one of those spiritual health and wellness centers, and it's around here. I applied there and intend on speaking to some people there about having them on the podcast. But they have different yoga classes, different meditation classes, different they have mediums there to go and talk to, and psychic shit. I don't know exactly how it seems like it gets really deep. I haven't looked into it too much aside from applying, and I've emailed back and forth with a couple people. But
it's like a community center?
Something like that, except primarily for like spirituality. Like when I
That's
reached
fire.
out in terms of like seeking a job, they brought up, I think they like misunderstood what I was saying and brought up like the fact that they have rooms available for rent and then asking me like what my practice was and shit like
Oh,
that.
okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And then I had to clarify. I was like, no, I don't. I'm not gifted in anything necessarily. I was just looking for a job. And they told me to come in.
That does sound like a cool place to work.
A lot of cool people to meet and like talk to.
Yeah.
Coworkers
Oh,
are
that's
usually
sick.
the thing that ruins jobs for me. It's a lot of different
Yeah.
coworkers,
Oh man. Yeah. No, that's nuts.
especially like being younger.
Yeah.
Then getting thrown into that. It's like all these people just trying to act like they're higher above you.
Right.
Y'all make the same pay. The pay's the same.
Dude, no, coworkers, no, they're great. My coworkers now, especially. I love you guys. No, for real. In the past, no, yeah, I see what you mean. I do have a question for you, though.
Yes, I'm an open book.
So, viewers, your audience might know that you and my sister are committed to each other.
Engaged?
Oh!
No, not,
Oh.
not really.
Hold on, I have to cough. Mid question, sorry. And Grace tells me that you two have been going to church more recently lately. And what I know about you, especially when I first met you, is in my head, almost permanently, a part of you is always going to be hippie Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, you're my hippie friend. I met you,
Yeah.
I had a guitar in my trunk. And our first interaction was you asking me to play my guitar, and you sat in a driveway, I'm pretty sure barefoot, and played my guitar. So, with that said, how has going to church been lately, and where does hippie Ryan stand right now? Like, and where was he spiritually before, and how are you now?
I've definitely had a big change over the course of like the last month alone, and we only went to church that one time, and to me that was more like trying to build upon a connection with my dad or things along those sorts. And I guess what really changed for me was, sure, it's no mystery. I have horrible anxiety a lot of the times, and it randomly got to a point where it was really bad. Like I couldn't do anything. I'd be sitting at my desk trying to like edit videos or whatever it may be, and I'd like my whole body would like start coiling, and I would just like fall on the floor. It was like the weirdest shit. I mean, Grace experienced it. Like we'd just be sitting there cuddling, and all of a sudden, like I'm just tweaking, and I wasn't able to sleep. I'd like fall asleep, just wake up tweaking, and it got to the point for me, which was actually like after church. Like I said, going to the church was really just like maybe they'll stop messaging me Bible verses, you know, and when it was like I think it was a Monday night, I had gotten home from your guys' house and I was here alone, and it was still just like really bad. I didn't really have like, I had one last resort, and that was to pray. I like found on my knees in my room, prayed, and then like instantly like that everything changed. Like it was so weird. Craziest occurrence, can't explain it. It was like for the first time that like spirituality that I've always had was given like an answer, I guess. Like that became truth to me. And previously, before that, I mean, even looking at a previous episode that I did, I think it was my second episode, I remember saying that I believed everyone was God. And I was just talking to Grace yesterday. That makes no sense to me.
I mean,
and even then, I don't really think that it did. Because, like, looking at people like Jeffrey Epstein, that motherfucker's not God, dude. Like, he's not the creator of shit, right? Like, we didn't create any of this. All of this, including us, are dependent on something. And in order, life in general, everything in life is dependent on something. And that could be as simple as food, water, shelter, whatever it may be. That has to start somewhere. That doesn't just like, dependency doesn't just arrive. Like it always goes back to one certain source. And to me, I found that answer, and I found a lot of like my spiritual questions that I had answered throughout the Bible, which is so weird because I would never expected that. And as well as that, I still don't necessarily believe the Bible to be fully truth, just in terms of if Jesus is the one perfect person, for me to expect all these prophets to write everything down perfectly seems like an idolization to me. Like, the prophets had their problems, it writes about their problems. I don't expect them to write everything down perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, well, getting nitty gritty with the Bible is always hard.
Yeah.
It's always, I mean, and you'll talk to people who, dude, the Bible's their life, and you can still feel this way or that way, but I mean, the truth to you is the way that it makes you feel. And that's what's important about, I mean, yes, every religion, but I guess as someone who grew up with Christianity, that's what I know best. And while some questions still remain unanswered for me, I will always lean on the values of Christianity because they have always made sense to me. No matter what I believe, the things that all people Christian, no matter what denomination, are typically values that make someone a great person. You know what I mean? Like a well-meaning guy. Like, you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
one of the main confusions for me, or not necessarily a confusion, but just kind of like going into why I disagree with certain things still, is the fact that there is over 45,000 different denominations of Christianity alone. Like, to me,
I didn't even know that stat. That's insane. That's nuts.
Over 45, I think it's like roughly in between 44 and 48,000. And to me, that's like, that's not all these people preaching truth. It's preaching their truth, that they, or their like perception of what it says.
And that's beautiful, right? Like, I mean, agree and disagree.
Yeah.
Some denominations seem crazy to some people, but they're all like, some things go wrong sometimes, but I think that's really great. People all care about the scriptures and they want to interpret them the way that they do, and I think that's really nice.
100%. I look more at, like, instead of finding truth in the Bible, I found truth in like Jesus alone, because I mean he's mentioned in every single world religion and held in a high regard, and as well as that, there's a whole bunch of historical proof. Like, I'm a very factual person. I look into everything, and I tried disproving Jesus. I tried disproving his resurrection, everything, and I couldn't. Like, through the searches that I was doing, through the
like online and stuff.
Yeah, like looking into like historical times. Like, there's even like emperors of that day that wrote about, and obviously they didn't believe that he was the Son of God, so they didn't write that he resurrected on the third day, but they did write that the tomb was empty, which doesn't.
Wow. I mean, it doesn't
really
make
sense.
sense.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't.
What is that term? And this is like, it might be a moot point because I went to a Catholic school, and this might be too specific for like speculating about the different denominations per se, because I mean, I'm like, who knows what the Catholic schools are like, how open-minded they are these days. They might not be, they might, but I don't, there's like a specific term that references the spectrum of belief about who and what Jesus was. Like, on one side of the spectrum, he was a man and a teacher. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, he is God.
Yeah.
So typically what we were taught in that class was that all the denominations have some sort of perspective on where he falls on that scale. So I don't know what help this will do our current conversation, but I mean, I'm sure Prophet, lies somewhere Wait.
Well, no, I get
visually. Like, wait.
Where would it be?
Right? So, I mean,
For me, it's not only like the fact that he's mentioned as a prophet, it's with how highly regarded he is. The Buddhas view him as a reincarnation of Buddha himself.
wow.
Muslims, when Allah comes back, he doesn't send the prophet Muhammad, he sends Jesus. Like it's crazy how in depth it gets and how honored he is. Especially, I mean, like the people that claimed that he rose again on the third day and resurrected were killed over that shit, and they still refused to deny it. And to me, those people weren't denying it because they knew it to be truth. It wasn't speculation to them anymore. They actually saw it. So they don't care if they're going to die because they know where they're going to go after.
Right. I mean, that was like proof enough for them, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, wait. I'm going to throw this phone after I do this, I promise.
Do your thing.
But okay. Like, for real, the never mind. I really don't okay, wait. Theory of the spectrum of Jesus and Catholic teaching, because this is gonna bother me, and that is like that's always been so fascinating to me, the way that like different denominations or like even like different religions think of Jesus as Christology. It's Christology. I think that's what it's called.
I've never heard of that.
I didn't even. I just
Christology or Christology.
It's pronounced Christology, but it is Christology. Christology. Catholic. Yeah, I psyched myself out because I knew it in my brain, but I thought I didn't, so I looked it up. Catholic Christology is the systemic study of the person, nature, and mission of Jesus Christ. So, I mean, that's very, like, big picture. But, yeah, no, that's cool. It's like...
Another thing that, like, brought me to what I feel is, like, the fact was the matter of no matter how good you try to be, you'll always end up fucking up. Like, at some point, you'll always end up hurting someone else, hurting yourself, or whatever it may be. And that stems from birth. I mean, as a kid, your first instinct, if you're getting yelled at, is going to be to lie about what you did. And that's like instinctually, we are all sinful at nature and will fall into that no matter what. And even with the views I had previously, I would still end up fucking up and would still end up falling into shit. And it never made sense to me because I thought I had all the answers, or I felt like I could have the power to have all the answers. When we're simple-minded creatures, we're animals. We're no different.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, as soon as you accept that to be human nature, that's when humility truly happens, because then you can't judge anybody else. One thing that I'll say that I'm so grateful about the mistakes that I've made is that it turned me from someone who used to say I would never do that and judging the people who do. It's turned me into someone who understands that any decision is possible under the, for lack of a better term, right circumstances. Given this happens, I mean, really anything could happen. And it's not about, doing first and what's the saying? Like, act first, ask for forgiveness later.
Yes,
what's the saying? I forget. I
don't know.
You know what I mean?
It's reminding me of my dad. He would always be like, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like whatever that freaking goofy ass saying. It's like act first, think later. People think that it's like, okay, you really commit to Christianity and, well, I guess maybe whatever denomination you choose, and then it's like, okay, God will forgive, and then that gives you an excuse to do whatever you want. It's not necessarily about that. It's considering that intentions always matter. People can make really bad decisions even when they mean well. And it's kind of just, people think that forgiveness could be weakness, or forgiveness is hard. And when you let go, though, forgiveness is a gift. It becomes a gift, and it becomes one of the easy parts. And that's what I really appreciate about loving God and the things that Christianity values, because forgiveness doesn't have to be hard. And that is, I think, the biggest lesson that I took growing up with a Christian family, is that forgiveness doesn't have to be hard, because when you get used to the practice of letting go of anger, it becomes something that you don't have to hold on to anymore. It's something that, it's like, the easier it is for you to understand the way that humans, act, and the way that you don't have to have such an ego and understand that you might do the same thing under similar circumstances if you were in their shoes, kind of thing.
The forgiveness aspect is really turned me away as a kid, because I was like also raised in that and separated myself from it when I was very early on, but then physically separated myself at like 15, and it always seemed really scary, like
It's still so scary.
the way it was made to sound, or the different verses that are kind of combative with each other. Like, there's certain verses that say all you have to do is believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins and rose again on the third day, and you will be saved. And there's the other ones that's like, you'll go to heaven and God will say, turn away from me, I never knew you. It's like that always scared me, especially because falling into sin is natural, and that'll always happen, which is biblically why Jesus Christ did die on the cross for our sins, is so that we wouldn't be subject to the punishment that's required of us for the sins that we commit. And as well as that, it kind of gave me, coming back to it now, it's humbled me a lot. Like, I don't feel like I'm God now. I put my stresses and everything else into something else, and I'm no longer the number one being, or everyone else is no longer like the number one being. Like, there's a creator in my mind that did all of this for a reason and showed mercy for a reason, and it made everything have much more of like a purpose, I guess.
Yeah. Bro, humiliate. Whoa, that's not the word that I was trying to say. No, humility. It's like, something that's been like hard to navigate when coming to the terms with being a people pleaser. For example, it's hard to, humility is always going to be easier for a people pleaser to embody, but it is hard to continue on with when you get to the point where you're getting out of the people pleaser spot and thinking that other people are better than you, because that's not what humility is about. It's about everyone being the same. And for a people pleaser, you think everyone's here and you're here. So when you start here and you realize you're starting to get here, you start wanting to overcompensate and put yourself here in order to kind of even it out. So that makes it hard to balance the sticking up for yourself, which typically when you're sticking up for yourself as a people pleaser, you end up here. It's just, you know what I mean? It's so hard to like finally get back to equilibrium.
That was my issue for the past couple years after what happened with like Miko and shit like that, was after like separating myself and diving more into spirituality than I ever have. And like this was before the Jesus stuff. It was just spirituality and what that was. I I realized that that built like an ego for me. I viewed myself as better than people because of how I would analyze things or take certain situations, and it caused for a huge disconnect. Like I wasn't able to relate to certain things, relate to certain issues, and instead I would just meet those things with judgment instead of like appreciating or coming to terms with it. It was just immediate judgment right away, and that severed like a lot of relationships that I had in my life. Love you.
Dude, this is such a refreshing conversation because I feel I've never heard anything online about this. I've never heard, and whatever, that aside, I mean, every conversation is going to be unique, especially when two thoughtful people sit down on a couch on a Wednesday night. But seriously, ego feels really good to have, and I've mistaken it for purity. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like when you feel like you might not realize that you feel like you're better than other people when you think that you're just on an elevated level of perception. You know what I mean? I'm seeing things clearly now. I must have some wisdom that these people don't. And while sometimes offering your friends your perspective is thoughtful, considerate, and kind, it can also be condescending in a way that feels good to you and bad for them. And I mean, and that's just one aspect of it, but like ego can come in so many different shapes and sizes, and it has been hard to really define what is and what isn't ego, and it's scary to be controlled by that.
I also feel like with being so disconnected from everything, how true could that perception that you have really be? Like if you're not
Yeah.
allowing yourself to connect with people or whatever in general because you have that higher regard for yourself,
Yeah.
then your perception in itself isn't even right because you're not really experiencing those things.
Yeah. And I mean, like, a lot of the times, the drive to be a better person, and which drives the ego at some point, or fosters the ego, your drive to be a better person will foster the ego, theoretically, can, like, lead you to completely disconnect from the person that made the mistakes that started the butterfly effect. Like, a lot of the times, you make a mistake or a big mistake, a couple mistakes, whatever, and you decide this is the time that you're gonna stop the cycle. So you start to make changes, and the changes make you see yourself as a better person, and you don't really realize that the ego has really started building. And it's kind of like dangerous, and it's been dangerous for me, and it's like I've seen the pattern that you've described, that you've experienced. It's crazy.
And as well with that, like when you have that ego and you're holding yourself in such a high regard, when you make even the littlest mistake, you're gonna hold that to yourself even so much more. So you're like, I know that was like, what the fuck was I doing?
Dude. And that becomes like, in a way, it's like, even if you haven't completely disconnected from the person you were when you made the mistake, your mistake. People, in my experience, it'll be something that a person did wrong, and then they attach themselves to that experience. And then they kind of identify with whatever canon event that it was. But I've speculated, perhaps because I'm not even close to being past all of my, healing is an ongoing thing, right? Ongoing conversation within yourself. But I found that once you have disconnected from your specific mistake / canon event, whatever it was, transcended from that event and chalk it up to anyone could have done it in my shoes. And people who judge me for it have never been in my shoes. And I could have made any one of these guys' mistakes had I gone through what they did. It starts to become not so much, this is my mistake, this is what makes me me, and I need to get past it. A lot of the times people could be in specific situations where, you know, they have things that they're specifically what say, like, sensitive to, for like, or what is it, prone to, because of what, biology, genetics, however. But yeah, it's like a lot of the stuff that people really attach themselves to isn't because of that. And I mean, biology is still what, whether nature or nurture, it's still cards we all could have been dealt.
And with that ego and that, like, having that build where, like, that ego becomes something that you're not even really realizing anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what you don't really look into is, like, especially I didn't, was there's reasons why people make mistakes, and there's, like, trauma that goes with that. And instead of just looking at the mistake in itself, you got to look at, like, the past and what that person's been through.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that explains a lot of the shit that I've done. So it like works the same for other people.
Me too. It's just, yeah, my favorite mentor right now, who I've already mentioned, she says you have to trust your experience. You know, the worst thing you can do is demonize yourself. Healing starts, and with understanding, and that's not just with other people, is mainly within yourself. The more you understand yourself, the more power you have to understand other people. But I mean, healing starts when you stop demonizing everybody, but really, like, demonizing yourself, for real.
I started my realizations on the ego before the whole Christianity thing, but since coming to that, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it Christianity. I don't really fall into, like, a sector or any of those things. It's just
Sure.
like
I mean,
I believe in
non-denominational,
Jesus.
maybe.
Yeah, that's like the
Denom-
perfect term. And I with that comes, like, the not having judgment for people.
yeah.
Like I'm not the judge of this. I'm not the judge of someone's salvation. I'm not the judge of the acts that they do. All I got to worry about is, like, the shit that I can control in my little area, my little circle. Anything that anyone does outside of that, it's not up to me.
Yeah.
Like, those people have their reasons.
Yeah.
Who am I to say they're wrong? Who am I to say that they're right?
Yeah.
All I can do is just do your thing.
You know, some people think that's too easy, but that's not. It's like there's supposed to be easy parts of surrendering. You know what I mean? When you're embodying a belief, there are hard parts to surrendering, and there are, what some people, you know, don't even touch on, is that there are freaking, I mean, great parts other than how you feel afterwards is what people are heavy on. It's like, oh, you surrender to this belief. Well, not the belief, but you surrender to God. You trust Him, and everything else comes. But that's not even, like, the only great part. Surrendering comes with not worrying that your enemies are going to get what they deserve. You know they are. You know they're going to end up where they're supposed to end up. And that doesn't come from hate. That comes from, hey, whether you're going to find salvation or you're not, like, it almost makes you feel free of hating anyone. Because you're like, honestly, I could be wrong about you.
Yeah.
I could be right about you. And I might hate you right now. I might be feeling some crazy resentments towards you right now. And if my judgments, you know, sue me, I'm human, I have judgments. If mine are correct, then you're going to go where I think you're going to go. But I could be wrong. And that's part of humility. I could be wrong. And you're going to find yourself in love, in whatever you find yourself in, and you're gonna transcend whatever the heck, you know what I mean? It's like you just free yourself of all that. It's not my business.
That was like another really powerful thing that kind of altered my perspective a lot with like afterlife and things of those like nature, was seeing my aunt die and how that was. And she was godly, believed in like Christianity, all that. Greatest person I know. And even after the fact, there was still like some sort of energy, some sort of love that was like in the room. Like it didn't even I didn't feel like she died till like 8 hours after. Like it was like, nah, she'll be back, kind of thing.
That's crazy.
But then on the first, when my grandma died, it was like the complete opposite. Like it was like cold, dark, gone. Just gone. And speaking with my brother about it, because he was there for both occurrences as well, he noticed the change, like the difference. And he always had that Christian perspective, so it like made sense to him. But that was something that I like took.
Can I ask which brother?
Nolan.
Okay.
Yeah. He kind of had that perspective already, but I guess without me coming to Jesus yet, it was so confusing for me, or like kind of pushed me towards like there has to be something. Like there has to be an afterlife. These two occasions, I mean, both of them died of the same thing. Both of them struggle with the same thing. It's like the difference in the room, the energy, the vibe, even how they looked was completely different.
Yeah, and you're saying like you felt that even despite having yet to get to where you are now with.
I had like a full-on hatred for Christianity.
Sure.
Like if you would have heard me talk about God or Jesus 4 or 5 months ago, it would have been nothing but negative, like negativity, hate, like whatever. So like it was a really big deal for that difference to like happen. And I didn't really notice it at first with my aunt because I didn't have that other aspect where it didn't feel that way.
That is I mean, drastic, yes, for sure. It's just it's a specific experience to have and to find yourself that way. So that's like, for good or for bad, that's really, yeah.
Yes.
That's a way to find it. That's powerful. That's crazy.
That was like one of the, or like completely like side point with like the whole Christianity or the denominations. I see like a lot of judgment. Like people judge certain sins differently than they judge others, when biblically and truthfully, me telling a lie, God's looking at me the same way as he's looking at someone who's getting fucked in the asshole, which is like kind of out there, but like I see a lot of the judgment being in relativity to like gay people, gay marriage, things along those sorts, when like you guys are looked at the, like you were no different. You're looked at the same. A sin is a sin, besides blasphemy, and God's not looking at you any different than he is looking at the person that's getting dicked out. Essentially. Oh shit. Fuck.
Bro, okay. My main thing about that, and this is like, we'll take a 5-minute intermission after this because I didn't realize I was going to have to pee again. So okay. But my main thing about like the judgment, all in all, right, no matter what your position in power is, right, it just feels like there's a major misconception with the way that, I mean, you're a person in power, right? Whether you're a pastor at your church, whether you're a government official, no matter what, you're supposed to have.
I hate the government, sorry.
I bet you do. Well, we can get into that. But it's like, no matter what position, and this is like back to the ego thing, you know, you're like, you have this certain amount of power, so that comes with ego. It's only human. And so is judgment. Judgment is in human nature, but if you're making that effort toward humility, it's like even the worst of sins, like judgment is also there to protect us, which is a disclaimer for what I'm about to say, because judgment is there for like judging situations. What's safe, what's not safe. That is natural for a reason. It's there for a reason because, you know, we have to be mindful. But at the end of the day, when it comes to punishment and, you know, casting people out who do bad things, sometimes sometimes it seems very, it makes a lot of sense because, you know, you're being defensive for danger and you're protecting lives, which is good. But then people with, you know, making mistakes and people judging those sins, it's like, if it's safe to say, hey, this person could figure it out, or they will, you know, judgment isn't up to us, I guess, is my main point, is that a lot of the judgment that is unnecessary comes with situations where people could safely and easily say, this person didn't ask for my perspective, and it's not really, well, it's not like what about what they asked. It's kind of more like their life has nothing to do with my perspective. Like, they're gonna figure it out either way. And a lot of like the perspective by people in positions of power is that with their ego they condemn people who do certain things that aren't socially acceptable, or do this or do that they disagree with. And it's just like, you know what I mean? It's just, that's where it gets controversial. And, you know, for maybe a lot of the times when things are harmful, it's for good reason. But a lot of the things that people talk about aren't as harmful as they say they are, in my perspective position.
I feel like a lot of the things as well aren't even necessarily rules. They're just guidelines to kind of live that better life or be in a better position.
Yeah.
Like the whole waiting till marriage thing for me. To me, that's not necessarily waiting till you have a ring on your finger. It's just separating love from lust and getting to know someone first. Like that'll protect you from a whole plethora of mental issues or feeling sad about certain shit or having a connection with someone that wasn't built on actual connection, just the lust that you had for them. And
that is a good example. That is a really good example.
I've also learned that anyone can change. Like anybody can change. The Bible in itself, even if it's not looked at as truth for some people, like if you're not believing in Jesus, if you're not believing in God, so what and so forth, it's still a historical book. It was still written thousands of years ago. It was still has truth of what happened during that time frame. Jesus was real. That's scientifically proven. And these people were as well. So with that, I look at like people like Saul, who was basically like a warlord, killing hella people, doing nasty things. And then he changed and became like Paul, this prophet of God who preached all this positivity and all these different things. Like no matter what, people can change. And that's where I have a lot of judgment. Because like people like Jeffrey Dahmer, Jeffrey Epstein, always the Jeffreys.
Low-key.
People like every single Jeffrey in the world.
Every single Jeffrey in the world is crazy.
I'm putting them all out there.
You know what I almost said? Like an airhead? Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas fucking Jefferson. You know what? Him too. We'll throw him in there. Okay.
His last name is Jefferson and not even Jeffrey.
To believe that their heinous deeds could be forgived or changed, that seems so unlikely to me. Like, it's like, you did something so fucked up, I feel so disconnected from that, but at the same time, I'm not the judge.
That I love that you said that, because that is like, it's scary to accept that people like them could be redeemed. It's scary. You're like, they're definitely going to hell, especially when you want to believe that your judgment is supreme. But that is part of surrendering. People like Hitler, bro, you might want to cry and die about it, but like, even people like that, if you're going to accept that ideology and commit to God, it is kind of like that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Paranormal?
Cool. Yeah, like, part of his story had to do with like him moving to this house in Florida where there was like this crazy demonic presence and shit like that, and his experiences with that. And that branched into me talking about this house and the shit that's happened in this house.
Well, what did you talk about this house?
There's a lot that happened in this house.
Well, did you talk about all that the other day then? Because I was trying to ask you about that right now.
I can go into it in like it's like a long story, so I kind of have to summarize it a bit. But essentially, there's always been something within this house where there would be something that happened, and it would always result in like something to do with a car accident. Like, for example, first moving here, me, Daniel, Jacob were in that room, which used to be my old room, and my TV kept turning off. And it wasn't just like powering off, it was like going to like the home screen, power options, and scrolling down to turn off.
Like random stuff.
And it did that like 5 times in a row. We're all sitting there staring at my TV remote. 10 minutes later, randomly turns on, car accident videos are playing, like car crash compilations. That night, Daniel's dad, his car was parked on the side of the street, got hit by a drunk driver, completely totaled his car. And he was like, his dad like walked away from the car like 2 minutes before that. And as well as that, there was like, I was in a car accident living in this house. Like, me and my friend Aiden, a car like slid into our lane, hit us head on, totaled his car. My mom got hit by a drunk driver in this house. She almost died, like life flighted, all that different shit.
Your mom was life flighted?
Yeah.
That's insane.
This was the summer going into my senior year. I was playing video games. I was sitting there playing video games in my room. My brother calls me, and I like already had that intuition. I remember I picked up the phone, and I was like, "What happened to Mom?" Like, as soon as
You said that?
Yeah, like as soon as I picked up the phone.
Nuts.
And he didn't have any details. All he had was that she was life flighted and that she was in Pennsylvania. Like, that's where she was at. So he comes, picks me up. We're driving like 120 all the way to Pennsylvania. We meet up with Nolan at the hospital. Essentially, she was with her friends in Pennsylvania, like Allegheny kind of area, riding 4-wheelers around, and there's like a drunk driver on the street, hit them. And my mom was in the hospital for 3 weeks, rehab facility for like a month, and she didn't start really being able to walk again until like last December. It's like a little over a year ago now. And that's ultimately like caused a lot of like stress or anxiety or whatever. And as well as that, me being like the only other person living here, I just dropped out of school. I was not really able to wake up and go to school every day. But with that situation, and then as well, I'm going to bring this one up, which isn't tied to a car accident whatsoever. However, you are involved in this story. You and Grace dropped me off. This was when I called and I was like, "Hey, the door's locked. Like, I'm locked out," type shit.
I remember that.
As that was happening, there was a picnic table out near like the front door, and throughout like the 45 minutes I was here, I was on call with Jake, my buddy Jake,
I remember
and
that too.
we were like making jokes about the fact that Mia kept whining and barking and like scratching at the door. And it was to the point where like the door was shaking. He could hear it on call. Like we were making jokes about it until he came, picked me up. I went and slept over at his house. Upon returning the next day, learned that my dog was with my mom at her boyfriend's house all the way in Beechwood. And then looking at like the bottom of the door, there was like scratch marks and shit from like it was a wild whole little like I don't even know how to explain it.
I mean,
Because I was
you
sitting
can't
there
really, other than that. I mean, I don't know how else you would, that's, yeah,
and then there was
I believe it.
there's been a thing that I never told anyone about because I figured I could have just been like tweaking, and it was like randomly hearing cats meowing throughout, like just walking around the house, and like I would be sitting in my room, Stray and Nelly with me, and I just hear a cat meowing on like the other side of the house,
Like how?
like from that room
Right.
from
Like how else?
that
Like
room specifically.
how is that even?
The last time when my brother was here over Christmas break, he was here one night all by himself, alone. Came, I was home the next day, and he was telling me about like the meows he was hearing and the fact that like the cats were right there, you staring at both of them, and something was meowing in like that room specifically.
So strange.
I used to have my whole setup in that room, and my whole little conspiracy on why this room is like the fucked one is probably because
The one behind this wall?
yeah, is probably because we put this wall here
When did you do that?
moving into the house.
When?
So we were quote unquote renovating this house for roughly like 3-4 months I just saw his face. He's so cute. We were renovating this house, quote unquote, with my mom's ex-boyfriend, which like now it's known that like that's what you do, is like he would find women that were kind of like down on their luck and like get them to invest all their money into like the shit that he'd say, and then like basically screw them over. So we were quote unquote renovating this house for like 3-4 months, which basically means we ruined the house because before this, like all the walls had paint on them, everything was kind of older, but it was like definitely finished. And then we got it to like this point, then we moved in, and then it just stopped. And so this wall was like probably the second month of renovating, and I feel like it's because we made that change, because as well the only other renovation that we made was my mom's closet, and I've had one experience in there, can't explain it. It's like weirdly, this is gonna tie into a little bit of Christianity shit kind of as well.
Yeah,
But
I mean, yeah, it did, right.
I used to have like my setup in this room, like my desk and everything, because I wanted to have like a little workspace. And I remember, I think I was on FaceTime with Grace actually, and I was sitting in there after getting off of a shift, smoking a blunt, playing video games, doing whatever. And I was just sitting there, and I randomly got like this intuition that I wasn't supposed to be in the room. And then as I started thinking that, I heard and felt the breath in my ear, like plain as day. Someone say, "You know you're not supposed to be in here." Totally freaked out, moved all my shit out of the room like a week later once I was able to go back into the room. And uh, throughout like a little bit before the anxious time period, obviously like always dealt with anxiety, but before it got like really bad, I uh, I would be home alone. I still am home alone a lot. And there was one night where I was on FaceTime. I can't remember exactly who I was on FaceTime with, but I had my phone set up on my dresser. And I was just standing up, like doing whatever, like the yap shit that I do. And then from my peripheral vision, I saw, like plain as day, there was like You know, like that shit, like The Ring, like the girl with the hair all over her face and like covering her face, sitting on my bed like this in the middle of my bed, just rocking back and forth. Like I like froze in my, like I started shaking, tears started like just falling from my face. I didn't like, it was peripheral, but like it lasted. It wasn't like a just a quick little thing that I saw. It was like that was there, and then when I looked, it wasn't. The next day, telling my brother about it on call, I was in my mom's closet just looking for like clothes to wear. Leaving the closet, she has like a white see-through curtain. Like it's very see-through. It's like white, kind of like mesh. I don't know how else to describe it. And as soon as I turned off the light to the closet, there was a face like pressed up against the curtain, just like point blank, just staring at me. And I was on call with my brother. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Started freaking the fuck out, like shaking and crying and shit again. And then hung up the phone. I randomly, I just hung up the phone. And I was like in such disbelief because like I've had
Yeah.
paranormal encounters, but nothing like that. And especially the fact that it was like back to back. After coming to Jesus necessarily, I I don't know why, but like saying that just I don't know why it sounds,
It feels like a cliche.
yeah, but coming into that, I randomly got like the urge a couple days into it, because since then I've like started praying every night and every morning, just like trying to build upon a relationship. And I randomly got the urge one night, and I wasn't high, I wasn't anything, I was completely sober, to pray that any demons that are attached or have their hand on me to be gone. And as I was doing that, the weirdest, like in my head, I was like seeing these faces of people like screaming and shit, and I was hearing like the screams, the craziest thing. And after that, I haven't had a sense of eeriness, haven't been uncomfortable, had nothing paranormal happen to me in this house.
Profound.
Like I could just walk around, do whatever, it's chill. Like the weirdest shit. And I was like, as I was praying, I was hearing like the screams of these things, and like the faces were just popping up. Not in my brain, but it was like in my, I don't know how to explain it. Like crazy, it was like I was like hallucinating or some shit.
Dude, faith can carry a life. That's for sure. Dude. No, Grace has told me a lot about. I mean, obviously none of that stuff actually. Grace has told me her own one too about even just being here with you. And I mean, obviously it hasn't been that insane, but that's crazy.
Have you had any paranormal encounters throughout your
Um,
life? Anything
Honestly,
that like makes you, because there's people that say that they have the openness to that belief, but they never experienced it.
that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. I I used to feel when I was younger that I wasn't very spiritual, but I think that it's because I feel like my human experience itself has been very intense. So it leaves less room for me to feel things spiritually. But as I've gotten older and let go of certain things and started to feel my own essence in itself, it's really heightened my ability to feel things beyond myself. Even still considering that though, I I'm like so fascinated by stuff like that because I believe most of it to be rooted in serious truth and the stuff that she's told me that she has felt through you and through this house and through, I mean, your experiences and other things that she's experienced. Side note, she's definitely clairvoyant, which might be something that you and her should discuss on her episode.
We discussed that yesterday.
Yeah, she experiencing being second to or being a first-hand witness or not firsthand, because I'm not a firsthand witness to her clairvoyance. She's a firsthand witness to her clairvoyance, but her being
Secondhand
being
witness.
her secondhand, or yeah, being her firsthand witness to her exterior uh reactions to it. It's like, I think it's so fascinating, which I don't know if Grace has ever felt that it's like insensitive that I feel that way about it, because she's like, okay, girl, but imagine if you were actually feeling. I love being your right hand. I love it
Give
so
your
much.
input, Grace.
I just it's been so cool. In a very, I'm frightened because my sister is going through very unique things that no one prepared her for kind of way, but also a, I'm glad to be here because I'm glad to be her witness, and I'm glad to be someone that will make sure she doesn't fall off of the edge of it, because I know that people.
I really started to after seeing that shit. I really lost
Yeah,
my shit there for a bit.
dude, I mean, being a seer, I mean, who knows how far the theory with that stuff goes, but I mean, I know, I mean, we don't, we've both done heavy research on what it is that she's experienced before, but I mean, there's no real answers. You can take it from an expert per se, not to, put quotes on someone's education, but really, how can you know for sure about something like that? And I have my own stories of being on my end of it, which has been profound because she has found it strange to hear my perspective of it, because she has she's been in the same situation as me, the same instance that I've been in, and we experience it on two separate, very different perspectives. And that's kind of the root of my intuition and the way that I know she's experiencing things on another level, whether it be visual manifestations of her own intuition, or her having a foot on another plane of existence.
So with that? What's your opinion on like mediums and
I believe that intuition can take many forms. Human intuition, humans above all other animals have a self awareness that we've never seen in other creatures, ever. Which you can get into speculating about the existence of aliens, which is, people say based on statistics, the fact that we exist. I mean, some people would say it's 100% chance that another intelligence species exists, but I mean, intelligence versus intuition, what have you. It's just the way that we have never seen another species with the level of intelligence, hence intuition, that we have. And I think that, I mean, the the speculation of religion and everything related is something that multiple cultures have had separate from each other. I don't think that's a coincidence. I mean, statistically, if that's how we all feel, then I'm pretty sure there's a reason for it. It's just like, wait, what am I branching off of right now?
mediums?
Mediums. I think it's a form of intuition, deep intuition. I think there are different forms of intuition that's, some people are stronger with that side of it and that side of it, and, different types. And I think being a medium is a very strong and, spiritual version of it. You know what I mean?
My experience with that side of things, because I got really into like the whole urban exploration or just going to abandoned places, and that also kind of solidified. I already had the belief that like of energies and things of those sorts. That really solidified that, because feeling like the presence of certain energies in certain rooms, like you could tell a family loved here. Like if you're in an apartment building and then like down another floor, it's like someone was probably murdered right here, kind of vibe. Like completely switch up of the energy within itself. And I had a lot of disbelief in the whole medium aspect of things until I um I met this person named Dan, and he'll be on a podcast episode. Actually, he's got some stuff going on, but eventually we're gonna get him on here. And he, from knowing him, first thing that we did, go to abandoned, like that's every single time that we've hung out really has been abandoned places outside of like him coming here for a bit, whatever. And he's always emphasized on the fact that he's a medium and he has like these different things that can happen to him or whatever, and he has a different kind of understanding on what's going on. And I was always very critical of that until one day he was here, and we were in my room. He was standing up next to my dresser as I was one day, the time where I saw the motherfucker on my bed. And this was
like after that day.
yeah, and
You invited him over.
this was the day after.
Okay.
So like the day of the
Is
curtain
that like why
shit,
you invited him over? You were
no,
like, I
it's like kind of like a friend group between him and my buddy Loggers. Like
Okay.
us three would just get together some nights, catch up,
It
whatever.
was just sheer happenstance.
And we were all three just chilling in my room. And Dan was telling his like paranormal story of being a kid and things of that sort. I won't get too much into it because I'm sure he will when he's on an episode. But as he was talking, I was sitting in my chair and I was just like looking at him, and I randomly got like this uncontrollable urge, and I had to like stop myself, like it was out of nowhere, where I just wanted to say, "There's someone behind you," like out of nowhere. And then as soon as like I thought that and I felt like the urge to say it, I really like I sat there, and it was like I could see this energy behind him, and I can't explain it to this day. Like I could see this sort of like dark energy behind him, kind of like directly behind him, like emitting off of his shoulders in a way. And I didn't say anything because I had already told them about the experience of the girl on my bed and the shit in the closet. I didn't want them to think I was like schizo or something, so I didn't say it. 5 to 10 minutes later, completely different conversation. He's standing in a different spot. He randomly says, "Oh yeah, by the way, when I was telling that story, there was something right behind me." And as soon as he said that, I like freaked the fuck out.
Dude, Grace actually told me that story, and I was looking forward to asking you about it because that's insane.
It was the craziest like coincidence. I don't sum it up to a coincidence at all, but that's like the only thing I can.
I mean, really... if you don't want to consider that,
I don't know what word besides coincidence like works, because I believe that to be truth. Like that was just like the craziest turn of events.
I mean, the most logical, and the person that's gonna say that's not even possible for those things to be related are gonna say it's a coincidence, and that's kind of like how you're gonna describe the way that's insane that the two events happened right after.
As soon as you said it, I like shot off my chair and I was like, "What the fuck, dude?" I was like, "No fucking way you just said that shit."
And what did you tell him after that?
I explained exactly how I was feeling as he was telling his story.
And what did he say after you explained that?
He just kind of like agreed. Like it was just kind of brushed past. We just stopped talking about it after.
Okay.
He was just like, "Yeah, there's someone right behind me."
That's nuts.
And with my dad being a pastor, I was told from an early age. I don't know necessarily how much I believe this, but it kind of allows me to put reason into why I've had so many experiences with like paranormal shit that I can't explain, is because of his practice and because of his work, demons were going to target his family and his children. And I've experienced that like since the start. Like even being in his house that was holy water splashed everywhere. I remember being a little kid. I had my buddy Vince over and we were just like playing adventure in the basement, building forts and shit. And my dad and my brother weren't home. My stepmom and my sister were upstairs. Sister's heavily autistic. Obviously, she's not going to be able to do this. My stepmom was like doing the dishes and shit. As we were down there, we both were like active conversation, active like role play, little kid shit. We're like looking at each other, and then all of a sudden we both just stopped talking. And then we looked at the laundry room, and there was this like figure just standing there staring at us. And then it turned and like walked away to like past the door frame. We couldn't see it anymore. Both of us freaked the fuck out, ran upstairs, and that's how I found out. Stepmom in the kitchen, sister in the living room, brother and dad weren't even home. There was nobody there to explain that whatsoever. And afterwards, my dad, he works in like the police department as well for the city that we were living in. He still does, but we like moved houses since then, or he moved houses since then. And I this was like right after his surgery. He was like in the basement where we were, and he noticed there was like a cork in the wall. And then he started noticing there was like corks all over the wall. If you don't know anything about Mayfield, in like the 80s, there was a huge thing where they like arrested a whole bunch of mafia members, mobsters, things along those sorts. He started pulling the corks out of the wall, and there was like wires, like there was like wire taps in our walls. Obviously, they weren't active. They called like the police department over and shit like that, but as if like the person who previously lived there was in the mafia, and they put like these wire taps in the wall and shit like that, like
Yeah.
crazy shit.
Miking the wall. That's nuts. Dude. That's crazy work. Dude, yeah, that's the correlation with your dad. That makes me so curious because, I mean, as much as I grew up Christian and everything, and I've gone to church a number of times when I was younger, that's not how it started out when I was born initially. My dad, at the time that we were all born, I mean, not all of us. My older sister Madeline has a different dad than Jack, Grace, and I. But when the three of us were born, my dad had a very specific view on religion that ended up changing, and he changed his mind at some point. But when we were born, my mom is inherently Catholic, but we were not baptized because my dad had a very strong view on fatherhood. And he said, I don't need my kids baptized because in the sentiment that, baptizing my kids will, I'm asking God to look after them. And my dad said, I don't need anyone to look after my kids but me. That was his sentiment, as so I was told very early on. I mean, I find it hard to believe that I could misremember that. I mean, I know I was young, but I'm pretty sure I remember that very strongly. So, you know what? Maybe I'll ask my dad if he even remembers that. But he did end up changing his viewpoint on that shortly after. The reason I don't know. And we started going to church. But I do wonder if, regarding the way that your dad is a pastor and he's, he has been possibly, feel his presence might feel threatening to threatening presences. A way to say that, to articulate that. I feel like I don't know. It's interesting that I never ended up feeling disturbed in a strong manner, or like I don't even. That makes me so curious.
With how it worked with my dad and him finding Christianity. I won't necessarily give his testimony now either, because I think it'd be really cool to do like a father son episode, get
And
like all the truth
that would
out and
be
all that shit.
crazy.
But he started the church when I was like 6, so it was relatively after, and previously he was so far from that. Like, hearing about certain things that he's done or partook in is like kind of, it's kind of difficult for me because he's so different now. And even his growth within like Christianity in itself was a big thing that showed me that change is possible, because growing up it was a lot more strict, and it kind of, I don't know if this was necessarily his fault or if it was just how I took it being a little kid, but it felt more fear based, and like whether like salvation and things along those sorts, like sinning. Like, I remember doing like the littlest thing as a kid, and then I'd just be up all night like freaking out like I'm gonna burn in hell, I'm fucked. like shit along those lines. And he never told me that or anything, but like with how I learned from a young age, that's what it always felt like. And I also always felt like there was a lot of like judgment for certain things, as I said earlier, with like certain aspects of Christianity where people hold a lot of judgment. Seeing how he's changed since then, even before I was biblical, was, it provided hope for me, and it provided me like that, the first like initial start to kind of rekindling our relationship that we lost or whatever. Because I mean, there was bad, but at the end of the day, I lived there practically full time till I was 15. Like, there was a lot of good as well, a lot of good memories, and a lot of things that were done for me that a lot of parents won't do for certain kids. And I'm very grateful for how I was brought up. Seeing how he's changed and become more of like that centered truth, whatever it may be, and more accepting of certain things, or just like less aggressive, kind of like pushed me to rekindle that relationship, and then also pushed me to understand that people can change no matter what. And then hearing about how he was formerly before I was born, it's like people really can't change. It's fucking crazy.
People, yeah. I mean, all people can change. But that is hard, though, to, like, for parents. Being a kid and your parent is changing, because your parent is who they are during your formative years. And that's stuff you're never going to forget, and stuff that you're going to kind of, I mean, even if they do change, it's so embedded in you who they are during your formative years that you might forget for a moment, in an instinctual moment, that they did change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might, and that's why it's so important who parents are during your formative years, because you might be in an argument with them years later, and all of a sudden they're the exact person that they were when they were, say, abusing their kids. Like, some parents do, and then they change, and that's amazing, and we're proud of them. But that doesn't take away the stuff that happens. Like, abuse is one thing. Abuse during the formative years of your brain development, of growing up, some of the most important years of your life. You know what I mean? Like, and parents are people, yes, but it just hurts so much more when they disregard how important it is to be the best you when your kid is a kid.
That parents are people is something that I was actually gonna bring up after.
Like, for real.
Was, I feel like as a kid as well, because your parents are like the ones that are there all the time, and like that's your mom and that's your dad, they're looked at in such a high regard that the issues they have and the issues that they put onto you hurt so much more. But then as you grow older and you're kind of able to not necessarily relate to them in some way, but realize this is a human. This is their first time doing this shit too. Like, they don't have all the answers. They're just like me in that sense. It allows for that like separation to kind of like meet in the middle, and then there to be like somewhat of an understanding of things that could have happened. Kind of like based off of that judgment, how we were talking earlier, with there's a reason people act like that, whether it's how they were raised, trauma that they've been through. And as a parent, I feel like you should be able to overcome those things before you have kids and figure that shit out before you have kids. But a lot of parenthoods aren't really planned. So with that, that doesn't really come. It just kind of gets taken out on the children. And then those people have to grow up with it and learn how to cope with that. And it's just like a constant thing that gets passed down after generation after generation.
Right. There's so many different, like, there's so many layers to it that it's like there's, you know, it's hard to be also judgmental and not let everybody off of the hook, because unplanned parenthoods are just as hard as anything else. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you're going to have a kid, you're going to have a kid. And I know that that's my perspective now, and I'm, hands off, because my perspective could change when I have kids. If I have kids, but just having been a child with hard / some missed experiences, it's just, that's the hard truth that you're dealing with at that time. And that's the one that resonates with me most currently. So that could definitely change. But I know that for me and a lot of people my age who haven't yet had kids, or coming from the perspective of, I'm scared to have kids because I'm scared of becoming my parents, because I really resent the way that my parents handled things. And that makes so much sense. And at the same time, there's also fear, I guess a more existential fear of change for when that, transition in my life does happen and I do become a parent, and then I quite possibly go through all of the difficulties that my parents did, and I finally understand why they had all the difficulties and made the mistakes that they did, and then I like, God forbid, I resent myself for never, giving them that latitude, because all of a sudden I like resonate with the things that they did, and then they, even past that, God forbid, I don't get to tell them that, you know what I mean? And that's just the cycle of life. But that is nuts. That's nuts. Yeah. I mean, something that's so common with human experience. I am, still afraid of experiencing it.
I find a lot of like my purpose to be in terms of devoting myself to people or certain things, whether that be like my podcast or my relationships or things with my family. And at first it was like an unhealthy thing, like that just put my self-worth into those things instead of what you're supposed to put into those things. And it did me more harm than good. But now learning how to do it healthily and understand that it's still my purpose. Like, my purpose is still in relevance to other people and helping other people. In order to do that, you got to start with yourself. Like, that's where everything else comes after that. You can't really be the best version of yourself or treat people how you want to if you're looking at yourself negatively, or if you're, it's like the act of love versus call for love. At that point, you interacting with people at that point, you interacting with people, or you devoting yourself to these people, is no longer an act of love. It's a call for it. And trying to keep that as a separate thing and know that I still have to be my number one priority in terms of like my health or my mental things along those lines has been a process, but I'm definitely getting better with it.
It's so scary.
100%.
There
This
is
is
a lot
not
to
my
plug.
episode.
I'm not gonna lie. Last year I was heavy on movies. Yes. So look forward to Quarter Given, 30 Rows, Life Game, all that good stuff. Love you guys. Miss Detroit. Miss my freaking my guys. Okay, and then end of last year I released a demo album, which is crazy fun. Look forward to the official studio album at some point very soon. My Instagram has everything to do with the chronic optimism that I hope I never lose at Charlotte Gustovic. It has more information about all the crap that I get up to doing, including the holistic health stuff that was mentioned here on this episode. So learn plenty about that. I promise it'll do you some good. And I guess main message is believe in positivity, whatever that looks like for you, and be open-minded. And always let your curiosity get the best of you.